This is not what I expected to happen, as Xavier Tillman, one of the players that came in last season's trade deadline and really worked himself into this Celtics rotation and had a great preseason, hasn't looked up to the standards of Celtics fans this year and has slipped through that Celtics rotation with Kristaps Porziņģis coming back. So we're going to be looking in this article, in this video, diving into why this has happened and what could Xavier Tillman do to possibly get himself some warranted playing time. We're going to be diving in all of this and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and today we are going live once again at 6 p.m. to discuss everything Boston Celtics from the past week. So if you want to come join, make sure to come check us out at 6 o'clock. Without further ado, let's dive into the video at hand. Make sure to grab a snack. And like I said in the introduction, we are going to discuss this as this is a topic that we need to look at with the Celtics. They have a couple days off. There's not much really to talk about this team. So we're going to be looking at some players that haven't really been able to get that much run or players who have really exceeded their expectations. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing Xavier Tillman because like I mentioned in the introduction, he had a fantastic preseason. And last year, he really found himself in this rotation, got some playoff minutes, and even hit a 3 in the NBA Finals. But then this year, after the preseason, he has been off to a slow start, hasn't been the best defensively, and ultimately, it's cost Xavier Tillman some playing time. So we're going to be looking at all of this and kind of discussing it. And if you guys have been following this channel for a long time, you guys know when Xavier Tillman was acquired from the Memphis Grizzlies, I was super ecstatic. I'm a person who has been in that Tillman FC, that Tillman fan club for a while now. Even before he was acquired by the Boston Celtics, I always viewed him as a solid big in the NBA. And if he just got his three-point shot back to where he had it around his rookie year in college, maybe he could be that big guy off the bench to be a key impact rotational piece. And the Celtics gifted him that opportunity, and he was looking like he could flourish in that space, being basically an Al Horford replacement for the future as a generational switchable big, as he was able to guard multiple positions throughout the playoffs for the Celtics, while also being able to stretch and hit three-pointers. And we saw that growth through the preseason, but Tillman hasn't been able to showcase that skill so far this season. If we want to look at Xavier Tillman's stats so far for the season, like I said, he hasn't been given much opportunity to play for this Celtics team. He's averaging 1.2 points, 2.1 rebounds on 25% shooting from the field and 20% shooting from three-point range. And that's just because he hasn't been gifted this opportunity because the Celtics have bigs that have played better than him in recent games. If we want to look as well at this, we can dive into this. This was Xavier Tillman's preseason stats. Something that we saw was pretty solid. He was hitting some threes, was playing some solid defense, and then if you look at his regular season playing time, you can see that in October, in those first couple games, he was gifted more minutes. But as the season has continued from October to November to December, his games have been dwindling down. In November, he got a decent amount of playing time, but in some sporadic moments and hadn't looked the best for the Celtics. And we haven't seen Xavier Tillman really showcase these skill sets or looked really blossoming in the moments that he has played with the Celtics this season. And that is a little bit disappointing. As we all know, Celtics did bring back Kristaps Porziņģis now, so they have him already in rotation. But when Kristaps was out, Tillman was gifted more run playing alongside Al Horford. Then Luke Kornet was starting to get some of the starts. Then Neemias Queta was starting to get some of the starts. And then Tillman just fell out of that rotation sphere and kind of fell behind those guys. And he is still slated behind those guys as well. If we want to look at the, Celtics depth chart courtesy by position here, we can look at this from Spot Track. They don't have Kristaps listed as a center, but they do have four centers: Horford, Queta, Kornet, and Tillman. And Tillman, like I mentioned, from his production, from his playing time, has slipped all the way to the bottom. And that's not great for a player who was viewed as a steal of a contract coming back on a 2-year veteran minimum. I for sure thought once the Celtics signed Kornet and Queta that Tillman was gone, but no, he came back on a cheap contract, one that Celtics fans thought was going to showcase his promise and possibly even get him a bigger deal in the future. But unfortunately for Tillman and unfortunately for the Celtics, that has not yet to happen. Now, I did hear from Nick when I was talking to him that he might be still dealing with some knee issues, so that might be lingering into the season as well. But unfortunately for Tillman, he just hasn't been able to warrant those minutes and give us the playing time that I think that he should get. And we're going to go into some next parts here. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, but how he can fit back into this team, because personally, I think a player like Xavier Tillman could be an impact piece for this Celtics squad, depending on some different lineups they run into. We mentioned that Xavier Tillman is a fantastic switchable big because he can guard multiple positions. And if teams run that pick and roll or the pick and pop, you're going to need a guy like Xavier Tillman to either step up and guard the smaller guy or to step back and guard the bigger big man. And we obviously know Tillman can guard those power forwards and centers, but the ability that he cannot be left on an island, can step up and guard those guards and even impact the defensive play for the Celtics to first force a turnover or to get the Celtics an extra possession is key, and something that we could see the Celtics utilize in the playoffs, specifically if they go up against some smaller teams. We know versus Dallas last season, obviously they like to use Xavier Tillman a little bit. Versus Indiana, they like to use Xavier Tillman against some of those faster, creative teams, and I do think Tillman could be some impact players in some of those series or versus some other teams if the Celtics were to run in them in the playoffs. But obviously, some of those traditional bigs, some of those bigger, lengthier ones like Queta and Cornette have obviously warranted that playing time as well. And Horford has not slowed down a bit either. So the Celtics haven't really needed Xavier Tillman as much as maybe he would like to play or as they would like him to be playing. But I truly think that if Xavier Tillman works on some things, he can get some more playing time. One is the defensive ability. We saw versus the Miami Heat team when he was brought in, he was getting a little bit cooked on the defensive side. If Xavier Tillman is to work on those defensive metrics and is to get a little bit better in some play, I think he'll get some more playing time. Now, obviously, that could go with just sitting on the bench, having some rusty legs, not really getting much playing time over recent games, but that could also be a factor in why he hasn't been getting much show with this squad. Like I said, it is a cluster of a big man group. I don't think the Celtics will entertain any trades revolving around Xavier Tillman. I do believe with signing him into a 2-year contract, they do feel confident in keeping a player like Tillman and truly figuring out where he can fit in and blossom with this team, even if it is not this season. But unfortunately for Xavier Tillman and for Celtics fans, he has not panned out to what we are expecting. And if the Celtics are wanting to be a championship contender team and are winning to compete, Xavier Tillman might have to take that backseat role to be that last big if that's the case with his play. But for Xavier Tillman, if that's the case, if he's on a championship squad competing for championships, still getting some ample playing time in some situational matchups, I think that is not a complaint from him. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, what you guys ultimately think about Xavier Tillman. Like I said, I'm in the X-Man's fan club. I am in all support for Xavier Tillman, and I'm hoping he can find through this rut and figure it out so that he can be an impact player for this team, can get those threes, get in useful again, as we haven't seen those been lethal in the regular season as well, and getting some more comfortability with this squad. Might have to be sent down possibly to play with the main Celtics to get some run, but who knows, or get some practice in like Kristaps did in his rehab, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Let me know how you guys ultimately feel about this team, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.